Hi guys, Kevin here. Nice to see you again. Today we're fixing a whole orange almond cake. It's a very moist cake that is super fragrant and it just happens to be gluten-free. I think it's delicious. And the first thing we need are 2 navel oranges that weigh less than a pound, let's say 14 to 15 ounces. And we have to boil them, so have a look. So to boil the oranges, what you do is bring 4 quarts of water to a rapid boil, then add 1.5 tablespoons of salt, then add the oranges, and when the water returns to a boil, cover the pot, lower the heat, and let the oranges boil quietly for about an hour. This way, the oranges will lose all of their bitterness. All right, while the oranges are boiling, prepare a 9-inch diameter springform pan. Springform pans have this little latch, and when you release it, the bottom comes out and you can unmold the cake very easily. And what you want to do is butter and flour the pan. If you can't have flour, if you're gluten intolerant, just oil the pan and then sprinkle it with cornstarch. Okay, my oranges boiled for about 90 minutes. They're nice and soft, and I let them cool for about a half hour. You want them to be cool to the touch because we're going to cut them and then pulverize them in the food processor. Yeah, this cake is called a whole orange almond cake because it does use whole oranges. And I'm just removing the little stems from the end of the oranges. And then we're going to quarter the suckers. And you don't have to use navel oranges. You could use any oranges you like. I like navel oranges because they're seedless. If your oranges have seeds, you will have to remove the seeds. And then, I've got my food processor right here. Move it over so you can see. We're going to throw these in. These oranges smell terrific. We're going to blitz them just to, oops, am I plugged in? Nope. Okay, we're going to pulverize the oranges. If you don't have a food processor, you could use a meat grinder. But if you don't have a food processor, you probably don't have a meat grinder either. Let's have a look at this. Grab a spoon here. There we are, pulverized. It's time to make the batter. So first up, heat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. And then crack 6 eggs into a large bowl. Yeah, the first time I made this cake, I used my stand mixer, but it's much easier to just do the whole thing in a bowl and use a whisk for the mixing. What I'm doing is breaking up the yolks, and then we want to beat the eggs until they turn pale and thick. And we're getting there. This is really good exercise. I should probably tell you about the background of this cake. I think it's a really old recipe, maybe hundreds of years, maybe even 1,000 years old. I don't know. But I found it from a book by the James Beard Foundation. And it's a James Beard recipe. And he said to boil the oranges for just 30 minutes. But when I did that, I found that the oranges were really bitter. So make sure to boil yours for at least 1 hour. Okay, so my eggs look pale and they are definitely thick. So next up, we're going to add 1 cup of sugar and just beat that in. Then we're going to add a pinch of salt. I'm using sea salt. You could use regular table salt, whatever you happen to have on hand. Kosher salt will do. Then we're going to add, James Beard said 1.5 cups of almond flour. Lately, I've been using 2 cups. And the reason for the additional almond flour is because my initial experience with the cake was that it was a little too moist. So that was 2 cups of almond flour. Boy, does this go quickly. Then we are going to add 1 teaspoon of baking powder. In you go. And we're going to whisk that in. And finally, we're going to add our beautiful, sensationally scented orange puree. Here we go. Get all of that in there. And we will whisk this in. Guess what? Our batter's done. Let me grab the cake pan. And we're going to put the cake pan on a parchment-lined baking sheet. Okay. And then in goes the batter, and I better have my spatula ready. So glad I'm wearing a black sweater today. Probably going to end up with bits of orange and almond and sugar and whatever all over my sweater. Who cares? Okay. We're going to put the batter in the oven for 1 hour, although we're going to check it at about 45 minutes. And if the top is looking a little too brown, we're going to cover it with foil. We'll be back. And here's the cake, fresh out of the oven. I can tell you my whole house smells, well, it smells like a citrus grove in Provence. This is one scented number. I'm going to let the cake cool on a wire rack for about 20 minutes, then we can unmold it and have a little taste. All right, the cake is cool enough to unmold, although I think it's still too hot to eat. What I'm going to do is run a plastic knife around the edge of the pan just to make sure nothing is sticking. And nothing is sticking. And here's that little latch on the springform pan, so watch. Voila! Our cake is unmolded. I'll let this cool a little longer and then we'll have a taste. Well, my cake got a little darker than I would have liked, and that's because I forgot to check it after 45 minutes in the oven. And this is the reason that God invented confectioner sugar. And since it's an orange cake, I'm going to serve a slice on an orange plate. Let's see if we get this first slice out of here without a hitch. Oh yeah. Ooh, look at this. Get that up close for you. You ready? I'm ready. Oh, it's a beautiful cake. Again, really fragrant. Beautiful. I've made this cake, I think 5 times in the last 2 weeks. I'm going to finish off this slice. I'll try not to finish off the whole cake. And by the way, this cake should freeze perfectly well. You'll find the recipe over on my website, and I'll post a link to that in the description box below. And I hope if you like this recipe, you'll give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already, I hope you'll subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll see you next time with another delicious recipe. Bye for now. Another piece. Oh, so good.